Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Infinity War Classic Open Qualifier number 2. I'm your host, Bemi. Along with me is Ruben for this time around. Say hello, Ruben.
Hello everyone, I'm Ruben Covington. I'm a game designer and programmer here at Lightmare Studios. So, looking forward to seeing the tournament.
Yeah, it's been really cool. I'm Bemi. For those of you who don't know, I am sort of been spearheading sort of this esports initiative for Infinity Wars Classic, and it's been really exciting to see all the players and decks. This community has been really freaking awesome, for lack of a better word, with just how cool and understanding, and everybody's been super chill. So I'm really excited to get into this and start seeing what happens. Just to kind of lay the land of what we're doing here is we're commentating over the semifinals for both games. So the winner of each semifinal will qualify. There is a little bit of a hitch though. Right now is basically, since What If Yellow qualified in the last qualifier, because there's still prize pools, we're not going to take away anybody from doing that. If What If Yellow wins this match, we're going to do a bronze match for Azrael and whoever is the loser of the other side of the top 4, just to see who else will qualify, just so we can have no disputes as who deserves the qualification spots, because it's going to be 4 players that qualify from today's qualifiers, and then 4 invited players from 2 from the invited Infinity Wars community, and then 2 from other pro scenes, to see how other types of card game players stack up in Infinity Wars, because of how amazingly different it is and whatnot. So why don't you talk about the decks while I go ahead and let the players go ahead and start and get ready?
Yeah, so we've got a really interesting matchup today. What If Yellow is bringing a triple Overseers of Solace? This is an aggressive angel flying list and has a lot of, angles of attack, comes out very quickly, really relies on its flyers to get in large chunks of damage, but does have a decent amount of removal and a couple of later game threats. On the other hand, Azrael is playing a triple Descendants of the Dragons, much more defensive list. So they've got a lot of control tools such as Purification Stones, Yuanchi's Wrath, and it looks like their main win conditions are the Avatar of Ling Bao, as well as potentially maybe United Front, which is an exciting new card from the most recent set.
Oh, and what does those do?
So that one actually creates a one of each of the main sages, which are these legendary creatures in the faction, and then activates each of their abilities for free.
What?
So it's a big 8-cost card, and it has a large impact on the game. Can really swing things in your favor.
It's pretty useful.
But yeah, the Lance of Jin Hai will be a really, really important card in this matchup, as that provides reach, which allows the deck to block a lot of the angel flyers that are going to come their way. And so it's about when they can apply that, if they can stem the aggression and take the game into control.
Who would you say is more favored in this matchup, the Flyers or the ones that have sort of answered to Flyers? Because Flyers are pretty strong right now in the meta, from what I've observed from personal experience and just what I've seen already from the first qualifier.
Yeah, I think the Overseers of Solace deck is slightly favored here. I think just overall the deck is really well tuned, but not exactly sure. This matchup has a lot of complexity and it can swing either way depending on what each player, how they play and what cards they draw.
Well, that is card games, isn't it?
Yeah. So it looked like we had an early defense with Galhan. We've got Infected Monk holding the ground off, and we've got some Forerunner of the Champions getting larger in the support zone. And now we've got a Luca coming down to buff the entire board as that goes wide. Cracking through the defenses, but Infected Monk has kind of 2 lives, and so it comes back as a zombie for a second round of defense. But yeah, no damage on either side yet. I'd say it's off to a pretty good start for the Descendants of the Dragons player. here. They've really held the ground early on and haven't been overrun by an early threat. But those Forerunner of the champions in the command zone for the Angels player are going to get larger and larger as more champions are deployed. And so because they are commanders, they can come out with haste directly into the attack or defense zone from there. So they can be a threat at any time. Currently it's 7/7 though, so decent size, especially for a 1-drop.
That's pretty okay stats.
Yeah. I mean, like out of range of all the 4 damage removal of like stuff like Yuan-Chi's Wrath. Though we do see Azrael has surprise defense in hand. This is a triple defense of the dragons card that allows you to basically play any card from your hand directly into the defense zone for 1 turn. But the card then gets moved at the end of the turn. But it doesn't look like they're going for that. Instead, just getting the AoE damage out.
And that's something to be mindful of that we were kind of talking about earlier, is just like getting that AoE damage out. Like this board clear is going to be very strong. It mitigates a lot of damage, but how how easy is it for Azrael to just sort of bounce back and redevelop on the board? Flyers, from what I understood, could develop a lot of characters on the board very, very quickly.
Yeah, so I mean, one of the biggest weaknesses of Overseers is all of their cards have very high morale costs. So you can, have this amazing aggression. You can, never take a point of damage, and then if we look now,
morale's almost at half.
Already at 57 morale. Nearly halfway gone, and so that's kind of going to be the secondary win condition for Azrael. Is if they can't, develop their own finisher, they can just keep defending until the opponent basically runs out of steam. But looks like they finally gotten some chip damage, but only 8 damage received so far from Azrael. So I'd actually say as none of the big threats are coming out, the now sole champion of Vengeance, is it? I get them confused. But Soul has come out. This is one of the later game threats from Overseers, and it could potentially be the thing that punches through, but still a very good position for Azrael so far, I would say.
A lot of angels with guns.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of their main thing. Angels with guns.
It's very cool. It's very, very badass. It's very metal.
Yeah. So, they've definitely got kind of a bit of a futuristic look to them, but
oh sure, absolutely.
Yeah. And okay, we can see that the surprise defense is going to come out on the Martyr of Peace. This is a humongous defender, and most importantly, it has flying. Though it actually looks like he undoes the move and is going to go for the United Front instead. What if yellow?
Do you think Azrael is going to just play a defense game at this point and just try to get the morale to 0? Because that's another win condition you can have in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of not sure if the Avatar going in offense is quite the right move, but I'm not necessarily familiar enough with like the late game of this particular version of the Overseers deck, because there are stuff like Heavenly Wish, etc., that, or you constantly flickering. Maybe they just want to use their resources efficiently.
That's fair. Just be on curve as much as they can.
Yeah. So, putting pressure on is good because What If Yellow does have the Mysterious Box of Wonder, which is a repeatable way of flickering their cards. So if they can get down something like the Luca, and then for 4 resources every turn, can have a get removed and reappear, having a into the battlefield effects basically constantly trigger, it can potentially grind through defenses. So okay, and so the Martyr is going to come down. It will get killed, and so it's going to transform all the enemies into free spirits, which is totally going to negate Soul Champion of Vengeance.
That's so strong.
Yep.
I remember when the game first came out, or it just was like very like private beta, and like I was playing a few games that I was like, I loved playing the robots a lot,
Mm.
and I was so frustrated when they became spirits. Because it's just such
Yeah,
a
well,
powerful move. Like, it's great that they have flying because they can still do a little bit of chip damage, but it's like at the end you're like, oh man, well, what am I going to
yeah,
do with this
and
3/3?
and one of the main things is that because they're only free freeze, they're then vulnerable to all the 4 damage board
Exactly.
clears.
Yeah.
So yeah, very much intentional with the design of that card.
It's very well
But
done. It's just, I personally, as a lover of robots and things mechanical, it's very frustrating for me because I suck at the game, but that's me.
you are going to see the United Front come down here. So this is triggering each of the Sage's abilities one by one, and then going to play all 3, and that's going to both deal huge amounts of morale damage and
Oh yeah, look
clear
at that.
because yeah, Ling Bao increases all their morale by 3, and then the Yuan-Chi deals 4 damage to all the enemies. So
And now Azrael in a prime position to just like, again, this idea of just sort of like playing a very passive control-y
Mhm.
concept with the deck has allowed
yeah,
them,
and
and you can definitely do.
they've got Calamity in hand. Like I think they're really safe. I think basically, yeah, Azrael
This is
really
so
has this
good.
locked up.
Yeah. Like, do you even have morale after this? 7 morale? I don't even know what you can do that will allow you to play something without just basically going to 0 and losing the game.
Yeah, yeah. And so now it's basically just about yeah, Azrael can apply pressure and just has to, you know, make sure that nothing kind of crazy comes out. But I think they've got this locked down. 3 morale,
Oh.
very close to dead.
That card is so disorienting just because of the angle it's at, because it has the teleportation frame at just like a slight angle, so it's like a card within a card.
Yep.
That's so cool.
Yeah, displacement. Yeah,
It's beautiful.
a really nice piece of removal. So you can either use it to trigger an enter the battlefield effect of your own thing, or to disrupt an enemy character. But here it's not super useful when the defenses are down so thick.
Sure.
And yeah, just the main thing is they can't really take advantage of any of their characters at the moment, because if they play anything, they potentially have it removed, and then they just lose.
What do you do here? How do you come back?
I mean, you're basically dead. We're just watching the
Yeah,
the
we're
game
just
end.
running the course.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think this game will be over quite soon.
Dang.
And there's the lance, so that really kind of just allows them to lock out any flying.
So, for future cards, just out of curiosity, because there's not really much way of healing in the game except for like blockers can give you health back. Is there any discussions about maybe trying to restore morale?
Yes, morale is one of the systems in the game that essentially means that games don't go on forever. So while we do have morale healing in a couple of individual cards, all of them are designed in a way that they can't be repeated for the most part.
Sure.
So it's like they're one-shot things of, okay, well, I heal you 15 morale or heal you 20 morale or something.
Okay.
And they'll remove themselves from the game, so you can't like get them back with graveyard effects, etc.
That seems very, very fair.
Yeah. Yeah, and so morale's definitely pretty unique part of Infinity Wars, because it is this way of essentially having a built-in win condition for control decks, which can help them have the game actually end.
Sure, yeah.
Especially
when you have 100 health in a card game. That is not very common, but it's very thematic and very it makes a lot of sense, because you're technically, your face is a city, so you can't just have like 20 health for a city. That would be ridiculous.
And more just it's because you're playing many things across multiple zones. It's somewhat more similar to a it's got some similarities like an RTS, where it's
yeah, absolutely,
you don't often win with just a single character. It's about kind of building up your forces and overwhelming. But different decks play differently. and
Are we gonna end it a tie?
No, it's just like as in a single one of these characters die.
Are we gonna hit the turn limit? I don't know.
No. Yeah. So once you, the other thing is that if you draw from your deck when your deck is empty, you do take 10 morale damage for every card drawn.
Oh wow.
Anyway, we can see
there we go.
Lance of Jin Hai.
That is a lot of morale. Oh wow, they're depressed. Okay, there we go. That's going to be the first game for Azrael, which is great because now they're one game from qualifying. And, quite frankly, what if Yellow not feeling the pressure? This is really just for the money at this point. They already booked their ticket for the $500 prize pool, which is very exciting. But yeah, I'm also really kind of cool, and I'm glad to see, as a control player myself, I always am excited to see ways of like still having some level of interaction but being able to play passively, and it feels like you can get away with that with this deck that they're playing, because that ability to activate all the legendaries of the, what was it, the sages, the angels?
That's the Descendants of Dragons.
Descendants of Dragon. That seems very, very useful, and like almost like a control deck's win condition of like, I'm gonna activate all the good effects.
Yeah, that's an interesting card because like it is really amazing in the right situation, but also each of the sages themselves have high morale costs. So it can very easily backfire if it's more of a control versus control mirror match. But in this kind of, when you're defending against a more aggressive deck, especially an Overseer's deck where they've got high morales, anyway, as in it's a very effective tool. If we take a quick look at the sideboards, I suspect... we might see some like counter spells coming out of.
I can choose a sideboard view if you would like for What If Yellow or Azrael. What would you like?
Oh yeah, sure. So I'd be interested to see what if Yellow is gonna.
Oh, he just finished. Never mind.
Okay,
but it looks like I did see a counter spell when I was looking from the POV that I was looking at.
Yeah, so definitely like.
But we can at least see Azrael.
They want counter spells to block, say, like surprise defense and the United Fronts, but also then they want to go maybe a little larger with something like Harahel, Champion of Virtue, which gives all your angels +3/+3, and that kind of lets you, get out of AOE range. But yeah, I'm not sure we'll see exactly. But it doesn't look like that. Yeah, they don't have any access to morale healing.
I think they're less concerned about that because they probably weren't expecting to run into these types of decks as much. Because I don't think we ran into this many of them in Qualifier 1, but that being said, I think a lot of people stopped bringing them because of the bugs that they were providing. Which is a reminder, folks, this is early access. This is a game that is on the growth. It is in infancy, so if there's a bug, it is what it is. And the community's been very cool and responsive about it. Of like, that's one of the reasons why we had a pretty high sideboard, is just in case there was bugs in the decks, that there would be at least a generous sideboard to give you maybe not what you wanted originally, but at least something that could have still synergy with your deck. So there's still a lot of good things happening, but right now it seems like Azrael, I'm not really sure what they're looking for. I guess never mind. They're actually getting ready to challenge. They were just on the cyber screen. Cool, nice.
Yeah, so I think the main thing is they're probably likely to bring in Spirit of the Ancient Guardians, which are they're flying vigilance deadly cards, and so deadly acts like death touch or
poison.
Poison in Hearthstone.
Forgive me.
No, it's fine. And so they'll probably bring in a bunch of those as it's another good kind of anti-flying option, and then possibly maybe another Z Martyr piece, as you saw how effective that was in the previous game. Anyway, they're starting off the turn 1 Galhan, and likewise we've got the what is it? Tempest, Champion of Patience, flying over the top at the beginning.
So it was, early chip damage, but as a reminder,
Yeah.
3/3s are sort of the 1/1s of this game, as it were.
For sure, but it'll get +1/+1 every time they play an angel, but a humble is going to come down, and that is going to remove its flying, and therefore it's going to get blocked.
That's also a great way to handle flyers as well. This deck seems just very well versed in a good tool set to handle this kind of deck. It's almost as though Azrael was reading into the fact that people were going to bring this instead of the demons and zombies after the stuff.
Yeah, I definitely think Triple Overseers is definitely one of the favored decks. People have been tuning it a lot. It can be very fast and overwhelm a lot of decks that are not expecting it. Stuff like Tempest can get very big very quickly.
Sure.
So yeah, targeting it definitely seems like a smart plan. Okay, and looks like they're using the Champion's Herald on Harahel, which is the character I mentioned earlier about who gives +3/+3 to all your other angels, and so that means it's going to get its cost reduced by 1 next turn and have haste, so it can come out very quickly and potentially make these cards much larger, and so they can get out of any AoE range. And also we'll have haste because of the Champion's Forerunner.
Are there any ways to sort of AoE buff your hand, or is it just sort of like?
Yeah, so there are a couple of cards that buff your hand in Warpath and Exiles primarily, as well as I think there's also an Overseers plus Warpath multi-faction card that does that. But yeah, Overseers focuses more on they're kind of a mix of going tall and going wide. Depends on what exact cards, but overall, they definitely have some of the best token creation alongside the Sleeper faction.
Yeah, Sleeper's
okay,
very
big attack. Didn't get through though, as we had the double infected.
Look at that! It's over a quarter of their morale is gone. It's running into the same problem again.
Yeah, because most characters have morale costs of 3, 4. A lot of Overseers characters have double that as their morale cost, or even their 1-drops have 4 morale cost. And so if you start having a bunch of them dying, you can your morale can get very low very quickly.
That's so cool. I think this is just cool. That makes the video game very cool in my mind.
Okay, definitely building up a big defensive force here. I'll be interested to see what if Yellow is setting up, because we do know they have Cassiel there, which can redirect damage and make it really hard to to take things out large characters. And it looks like they played a Luca, which is going to buff their board very wide. It's a +2/+2 to all their characters. All their angels and artificial characters.
Wow.
But Galhan, this is a new Galhan card, and Galhan stole it, and he came down and just totally demolished that attack.
Look at that.
But, so I'm still definitely think Azrael's going to be quite favored here. They've had some real good reads on when the attacks were coming, and so they're going to get some hit for a bit of chip damage.
Good use of their commanders too.
Yeah, definitely. Their commanders are very defensively orientated, but they've got a good mix of different types of defense with ways of blocking on the ground.
I could tell from the card animation. It looks very good. That, I don't know what that card is to 12-14, but they were deflecting bullets, literally.
So that's Dad's honor guard. which takes reduced damage from. It takes like 4 less damage from all attacks. So
That's crazy.
So it's very good against specifically large swarms of characters.
No wonder it's a commander. Holy heck.
Yeah.
That's
and
pretty
so
good.
yeah, now that both
Oh, that's so much
Martyr
health.
of Peace, now that both Z Martyr of Peace and Gahan Renat's champion has come down, I think this is probably going to lock it up. Yeah, just what if yellow doesn't have? Oh, it has some removal. Okay.
Is there anything else in the deck that could help what if yellow in this circumstance? Like
I mean,
the morale.
What if yellow really wants to draw things like Heavenly Wish, which can just outright remove a character from the game?
Is there potentially going to be more draw cards for other factions? Like, I know one of the things I liked about when I played my robots with just the dark blue diamond symbol faction.
Yeah, the Genesis.
Genesis Industries. They had a lot of great draw power.
Yeah.
Like
so different factions. Have different kind of strengths and weaknesses, and so. But neither of these factions are particularly amazing at drawing cards. So like the Overseers can sometimes do like token creation as kind of their card draw. But overall, both of them have to rely on the trading post. So the trading post is something that is unique to Infinity Wars Classic.
It's really helpful.
Yeah, so it's basically these 3 options that you always have. You can pay 3 to shuffle a card from your hand into your deck and draw a card. You can pay 5 to just outright draw a card, or you pay 9 to increase your max resources by 1. This allows you to get beyond the base 10 resource maximum for the most powerful cards in the game, such as the Calamity that is in Azrael's hand.
Yeah. It's a fair trade too. Like drawing the card and how much it costs to draw the card just like from the marketplace is like not that it's expensive enough that you can not just do something too overpowered, but it's enough that you can like still do something with there's a lot of 5-cost cards that are very, very strong in this game.
Yeah, it keeps the game moving even in the late stage and allows you to, allows you to potentially, take a back seat if you kind of have a bad attack or something, and kind of regroup, as we can see that's what if yellow is doing here, sitting everything in the support zone and trying to go in for a large attack. Actually just blocked a Yuan-Chi's Wrath with Cassiel, which redirects all the damage to herself. So saved a lot of their board there, but their morale is getting very low.
It's they took another 10. It's not looking hot. There's so much defense. What can they do here? They don't, with not that much draw, they're relying basically what comes off the top of their deck to be able to have any type of removal or be able to mitigate anything, and with the morale being a very low resource.
They need to focus on removing these 2 large flyers that are in the way, and so they do have a Mysterious Box of Wonder in play, which they can use to temporarily remove one for a single turn. And it looks like they're also using an Evict to bounce the other one to their hand. And so you can see here they're attacking in the air, trying to basically ignore the rest of the defenses, just take out those key blockers and get in some big hits with temporary disruption. But their health buffer is still quite large. But if they can do that another time, like they could potentially deal another 40 to 50 damage. It's just doing that without running out of morale, which gonna be difficult.
Yeah, well, they have things to answer with the flyers. As long as they keep that 10-20 alive, maybe even play some more stuff, which they can't now after that, but they have other. I know that 11 cost card in their far right is a flyer as well, so that could even eat a lot of damage. But yeah, we'll see. It's going to be a bit of a race. We'll see what happens.
Okay,
but
so it looks like the United Front is coming down, and that is going to wipe the board.
Okay. Never mind. That is over minus 50 morale. That is insane. And Azrael is actually going to go ahead and qualify.
Yeah, great matches, both of them. That second one, what if yellow did get in some hits there at the end, dealing nearly 50 damage, but couldn't quite get it in time before they ran out of morale.
Well, congratulations to Azrael. What if Yellow? I couldn't care less if you lost. You already qualified, so congratulations. But I'm glad you got in some games as well, and you gotta learn that. But I'm also happy, honestly, we don't have to do a bronze match. It makes it very more genuine for the grand finals, and also having a second ever tournament winner is very, very cool. While it would have been cool to have a back-to-back tournament winner, I think it's very exciting to see more people qualify. Don't you think, Ruben?
Yeah. Azrael played really well. Their deck seemed really well tuned against What If Yellow's deck, and there's good matches. Looking forward to seeing them both at the finals.
Yeah, we'll see how they do in the championship, but we're going to throw to a break, and then when we come back, we'll be back with more semifinals. So stay tuned. We'll be back in just a moment. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Infinity War Classic Open, Qualifier number 2. We just saw Azrael beat What If Yellow, the previous champion of the first Qualifier. So no awkward, no need for any awkward bronze matches or anything like that. But it is now time to see another player qualify. I'm very excited that we have new players. It shows just how amazing and diverse this pool is of players, and diverse the decks they are. Ruben, as well, you want to talk about them? That sounds exciting. Mm-hmm. Sure. There and also but like from what I understand from Sleepers and just what you've been explaining to me, is they're one of the strongest games to have token decks. So from my understanding with tokens, just my experience in other card games, tokens allow for a lot of survivability of board clears and trades and stuff like that, because you always have something hanging about. It's just a matter of fact that like the tokens can tend to be a little weak. So how do they survive? Like what kind of stats can they bring to the table to be able to make those tokens matter with a sleeper deck? Sure, yeah, it becomes sticky. I think I'm just processing this now. Is that a zombie rabbit? Okay. Which agent coil is this? Oh my gosh. Okay, so that's a really useful card for sleeper decks. Sure, but also distributing those stats sounds pretty good. Love the blood splotch animations when they hit the board. That's very cute. That's a good detail. Is the win condition maybe just sort of like trying? Oh, okay. Okay. I was gonna ask a question of just like, is there any way to create enough pressure that you sort of make them think a 17-15 would be better off for defense? Okay. That was so strong. What is Shade looking for here? Also, sorry in advance to everybody that might be of only hurting one side of this conversation. I just realized that the audio was a little bit messed up.
Oops.
So.
Okay, well, hopefully people can hear you now. Yeah, so they do have they have drag downs, which allow them to pull a character with flying down to the ground temporarily. They've also got Fear, which is basically like a fog style effect. It pushes all cards to the support zone for the turn on both sides, and so they can use that to essentially stall the game, until they find removal. And it looks like they're removing some tomes that are dead, so I can see that being the correct case, because tome might be a little slow, because it takes 3 turns to activate before blowing up everything. Which, if they're if their mutating dead is large enough, 3 turns is gonna kill you. But yeah, I'll be interested to see what each player brings out of the sideboard.
We're about to find out. Shouts to the game not making people need to restart the game. It's very good.
Okay, looks like we're into our match here. So
yeah.
Shade Healers doesn't have any good removal in their opening hand. It does just look like more and more kind of ground attackers. But it doesn't look like either player is going for the mulligan. It's losing a whole extra card. Pretty brutal. Okay, looks like Shade Healer did draw the drag down, so that is potentially pretty big. if and when the mutating dead comes down. But otherwise, this game is pretty similar, at least to start off with.
In what way?
So it looks like we've got the it looked like we had the kind of just the ground game of the inevitable dead plus zombie scavenger to start off with, while we had the waste chucker on the other side to get early discards. It looks like they have discarded a multi-strike character, so which they'll use to feed to their mutating dead, which they've just done, and so now mutating dead has multi-strike 2, and so that's going to be a big part of allowing them to get such a rapid kill like they did in the previous game. So honestly, I think Shade Healer is in trouble. They got knocked about pretty badly at the beginning there. It looked like a regicide killed one of the commanders that they were hoping to attack with, which allowed the waste chucker to get a good trade. And yeah, they're already getting in for chip damage. And so while Shade Healer does have this pink card in their graveyard, that means you can play it this turn from your graveyard. They can have recursive threats come out. That's just too resource inefficient at this stage of the game. So they're just going to have to keep playing out their hand, and they do have an Undead Wish though, which can be used to kill the mutating dead if it comes out of the command zone at the right time. Yes, it looks like Shade Healers are just kind of pushing to the board. The mutating dead is just getting larger and larger. 2119. It's got multi-strike. I'm not sure what the other keyword it is that it has. Right up to the top of my head. Keyword win. Yeah. But yeah, it's gonna deal at least like 50 damage, most likely, with the multi-strike. It's just, if it doesn't have flying though, could get blocked, or it could get dragged down to delay it while the zombies try to put on pressure. But considering that Drevod has taken negligible damage, it's going to be pretty rough.
Feels like the early game was so important for Shade Healer, just to be able to start initiating that pressure, because they would much rather the stats be for defensive purposes, because that would at least get them very much from the steering wheel.
Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty rough matchup for Shade Healer, because while sleepers are pretty inevitable, right? They come down, in large numbers, and they keep coming basically forever. They are slow to start, right? And you saw that. Looks like they did use a Tome of the Dead to wipe the board, basically forcing Drevod to be unable to play out his mutating dead for the last couple of turns, having to keep it in reserve. Now they're going to play it out.
What the heck? The board changed.
Yeah, so this the board visuals actually change when you play a location card. So they played Acrylic City of the Dead that gave all their cards infect, which will allow them to, if they kill another card, that you actually steal the card that was killed. And
whoa,
yeah, very very nasty. And, one of the ways that, while the zombies don't have flyers themselves, you kill a bunch of flyers with them, and hey, you now have the flyers. So looks like the Undead Wish got redirected.
Okay. Well,
and they're not dead. Oh no, actually, it looks like they stole the multi-lives from Sol that they discarded, and so it survived the Undead Wish, and therefore was able to get the kill there.
That's a good thing for fast animations, because it helps speed up the game a little bit. But then I'm like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah. I mean, maybe for future. Well, if when we have a spectator mode.
I think
It'll obviously
we'll ask players to also not use the animation speed up thing.
Yeah.
I think
Because
that might
obviously
be good.
people playing want to, get the match over, get the game going as fast as possible. But for spectators, very hard to follow.
Sure, absolutely. Well, it's a good thing we have people like you here, Ruben, to just talk about what the heck we just saw in like really fast motion.
Yeah. So, but yeah, great. Yeah, great. Really interesting deck from Trevored. Trevored? I'm not sure. But yeah, basically using Mutating Dead to its maximum effectiveness, and yeah, really crushing that those two matches there.
Yeah, no kidding. But yeah, now we're gonna have the grand finals. We now know that Drevord and Azrael are gonna be qualified for the championship of this first open, and now we're gonna see who's gonna be winning. It's also gonna be playing for seeding in the tournament and which group stage they're gonna be in, and then also who's getting that sweet prize. It's gonna be $75 versus $25. We didn't really talk about this much, but this is also some of this prizing is coming from our partner Challenger Mode for this event. If you want to check them out, we're going to actually be using them for the championship, and we're going to start using them also for future events as well. So if you want to check them out, Challenger Mode, I think .gg or .com. It's a logo of an orange mountain if you need context of like where to find them. But they're a cool tournament platform, and they were nice enough to add officially Infinity Wars Classic to the library. Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and throw it to a break though, and we're gonna see who's gonna be the champion of the second ever Infinity Wars Classic Qualifier. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Yeah, I expect the Sins of the Dragon.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the grand finals of the first ever Infinity Wars Classic Open. Hooray! Qualifier number 2 is grand finals. Drevo and Azrael both qualified for the championship later next week, October 29th. Be sure to catch that. It's at 6 p.m. Central USA time. Convert that however you like. You could set it to convert the time of, I guess, Nepal if you felt weird and wanted to convert that from there. But either way, speaking of converting, we're going to convert some decks into information that can be digested for new people like me to learn. So Ruben, talk to me about not only being called a delicious sandwich, but also what we are expecting to see in this matchup. Because you said this is going to be a little bit of an uphill battle for one of these two players.
Yeah, so we have two very high impact decks here. We have Azrael with a triple Sense of the Dragons control deck, and we have Drevorod as a kind of a combo deck. This is with Mutating Dead and Enya of the Infinite Possibilities. And yeah, because Mutating Dead is such a key part of the, at least, a plan of the deck, it is a lot more vulnerable to Descendants of the Dragons with their cards like Humble, etc., that can just turn off its abilities. So I expect this will be an uphill battle, but it is so explosive. And if they can get something like Untouchable as a keyword, which allows them to not be able to be targeted by abilities, then they're going to run away with the game. So it's going to be a swingy matchup, I expect. Really interested to see how it plays out, and also really interested to see how it plays out after sideboarding.
I really want to see the Infinite Possibilities get around to actually being played, because you made it sound so exciting.
Well, she's more a deck builder thing. She doesn't actually really get played herself. So she's a 7-cost 2/2, which is awful. But then she forces you to be singleton, but then gives you access to a whole bunch of extra.
Oh, I see. It's a passive ability.
Yeah. So basically, wastes the whole command slot, but then allows you to add a lot more different cards.
Ooh, I want to see more of that kind of stuff. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, it looks like the Humble is going to come down, and Azrael has the initiative. Cards resolve in initiative order. So just the instant leave, it looks like. Okay. Oh no! So if that had happened,
what happened?
So essentially their deck must be very, very concentrated on that combo. If they are not able to protect the combo, their deck, they don't believe they can win. So just instant concede there. So with initiative, one player starts with the initiative, and it swaps back and forth between players. All effects of the same type of one player happen before the other, and so in this case, because even though he was trying to use Mutating Dead's ability to give it untouchable so that it couldn't be targeted by abilities, because they didn't have initiative, it meant that that their ability came second, and so they got the protection after they already had been hit by the Humble, and therefore wasn't able to protect their commander there. Unfortunate opening, having Humble on turn 2.
That was one of the fastest card games I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, so having Humble on turn 2 with the initiative, the worst case scenario for that deck.
I think the flavoring of the naming of the card was excellent.
Definitely. Brought that card, brought the Mutating Dead, which had been, won multiple games last round. Humbled it a bit. So that, as I said, it's going to be a rough matchup. I think hopefully we'll have a bit of a longer game too. So we do have some sideboarding happening in here. You do need to, so I guess
just to make sure that I'm reading this correctly, Azrael was.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Good. I'm surprised they're sideboarding after winning in 2 turns.
Well, so I mean, Azrael does have. Let's take a look at their sideboard real quick. So they do have another Purification Stone, which is another like Humble style effect. So they're probably bringing that in. I don't know. They might bring in Spirit of the Ancient Guardians as well, because it has that deadly keyword. And flying, it can come out and basically block the Mutating Dead, right? It doesn't matter how big the Mutating Dead is. If the character blocking it has deadly, it's going to die. And so those are probably the main sideboard cards that are coming in.
Okay. Still won in 2 turns. So I'm personally, as somebody who's new to the game.
Sorry, as in why they conceded there, or
No, as in like why are they swapping cards on the sideboard?
well, because they've got, they know that the opponent's deck is really hyper focused on this one card, which is the Mutating Dead, and so they want to bring in anything else. They can cut back on some of their other defensive cards.
I see.
Just anything to take out that one card and pinpoint that. And so then there's 2 options depending on the deck building for Drevoid, which is either they can, try to protect their thing even more, right? Bring in even more defensive cards to protect their one threat, or they could potentially sideboard in basically, a other game plan, right?
They did it. Sorry, I was listening to you, but at the same time, I was like, oh no. Okay.
Nope. Looks like they are ready to go.
That's the power of this community. This community is pretty cool, man. They figured it out what they need to troubleshoot. Well, let's see how it goes.
Okay, so Trevor has an untouchable card in their opening hand and a way of discarding it, and they don't have initiative on turn 1, so they will have initiative on turn 2. So this is actually one of the perfect kind of openers for them, because then so even though the Humble's going to come out, Mutating Dead is likely going to activate and eat the untouchable card in their graveyard, and that will cancel the effect. So it looks like the Humble is actually going out onto the Agent Coil to prevent any further discards. So they knew that was going to happen, and so they didn't aim the Humble there. And so instead are kind of trying to disrupt their way of getting new cards into their graveyard. So while the Mutating Dead is now immune to single target spells, as long as it has untouchable, it can't grow any larger if there's nothing in the graveyard. And so by turning off all the abilities of the Agent Coil, they are hampering their ability to add cards to their graveyards. So very clever play from Azrael. So both players are now just playing to the board. A second Humble. I'm not sure what a second Humble does here, though. Looks like we have a Guanchi's Wrath as well. And a Seeker coming down. The Guanchi's Wrath is going to do chip damage. And the Mutating Dead is going to come down. It's flying, untouchable, and 15-9. So if you can keep using Yuanchi's Wraths or Flyers, etc., to basically keep chipping away at it, because there's not really any good cards in the graveyard to steal keywords from, you could potentially eventually wear it down. But yeah, pretty interesting position for both players. Okay, so it looks like Humble is going to be used on the Seeker here, which is going to prevent it from drawing another unique card and also remove its Flame Strike ability, which means when it is in the graveyard, because Humble is a permanent effect, it doesn't wear off once the card is killed. So the card will continue to have no keywords, even if it is after it is killed. But looks like they're actually using the Trading Post and then using the Humble, not going to increase the board more. Yep, so the Humble can just make the Seeker useless. Though actually it did heal the Seeker up, because it Humble also heals the cat, removes any damage as well. So the Seeker actually survives, but it's not very useful. And yeah, the Mutating Dead's going to sit in the support zone, and it's trying to get keywords. It could potentially get plunder, which will allow for card flow. Plunder is whenever it deals damage to a player, you draw that many cards. So that could really help Drevoid. But if he's really willing to risk his card in combat, so if he does lose the Mutating Dead, it's big trouble. Okay, Splat came down, and yep, going to fly over. Huge amounts of cards, total refill of the hand, discarding a large number of cards to hand size, including multi-strike 3, including flying, untouchable. Yeah, this is not looking amazing for our Sins of the Dragon player. However, they do have both a Spirit of Ancient Guardians, which I did mention before with its deadly effect, is really, really effective at taking down single large characters. And they do have a Lance of Jinhai, which will give a character reach. Looks like they are giving their card in the attack zone reach, just in case this Chaos in the Ranks is used. And the Chaos in the Ranks swaps the opponent's attack and defense zones. And so they're basically putting a big defender in both zones, so that even if that swap does happen, it doesn't mess up their board state too much. Hedging their bets, essentially.
Sometimes.
Yeah. So yeah. And they'll only have to worry about that for one turn, because it was discarded and that activated the exile effect. Lance of Jinhai did come down, and now Chaos in the Ranks is being played. So any card with that pink means they can be played from the graveyard that turn. And yeah, it looks like the Mutating Dead was dealt with that clever attack zone reach. This is going to give Azrael potentially a game-winning lead. They're able to just freely play to the board, even though Drevoid won. They had so many cards drawn without their core gameplay. Okay, we do have a bug apparently.
Oh.
We had a bug. Redirect didn't work. What do we do now?
Oh.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. Replay the game. So look, and then. So I guess what is supposed to happen there is that the redirect was supposed to redirect the Lance of Jinhai to their own character. And so therefore the card wouldn't have had reach, and therefore wouldn't have killed the Mutating Dead. So Bemi, maybe let them have a choice of taking out redirect.
Oh, yeah.
If they wish.
No, yeah, that's a good point. I just assumed that it was just... That's fine.
Wait, well, the players get sorted, and it looks like they are ready to play again.
They'll risk it. Okay? Fair enough.
Okay.
Hey, I'm not going to complain. It's grand finals. There's no games up. Nobody's waiting for anything.
Yep. Okay, so let's get back into it. So, yeah, we've definitely seen just how important Mutating Dead is. If that dies, it's nearly game over. So very.
He said he needs the counter to humble turn 2.
I mean, fair.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so we've got the Lance Jinhai coming down. This is a preemptive Lance before redirect or anything can come down. And it looks like, they will get the turn 2 untouchable again, which is very, very, lucky on their part. And the flying as well, because they were able to discard that. Looks like a redirect came down, but they didn't play anything, so that was fine. They were, they were assuming the opponent was going to, use the humble, but looks like they played around it. However, they could eat the untouchable in the graveyard, but no, they don't have initiative. This is, it gets humbled.
Oh.
And so this is probably going to be game over.
Yeah, I already see the top hand.
They didn't have the initiative on that turn.
Well, I guess. Wow, that even with the bug was super fast.
Yeah, well, no bug in that last game.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, even with the bug and redoing the game went super fast. Or the set.
Yeah. So I mean, those types of decks are they're so powerful, but they're really they're really focused on a single card. And if that single card if that single card gets taken out, it's not a great thing. So actually they're talking about how it's really good he didn't play on turn 2, but they actually didn't draw the humble until turn 3. And so outplayed a little bit.
Oh man. Draw better cards. That's anyway. On the play. All comes down. I believe.
Mm-hmm.
All news.
But anyways, really interesting deck. And congratulations to Azrael.
Yeah, Azrael's going to take the prize, and it's going to take the higher seeding, which means nothing in the long run too much, but just is going to be fun, and you can get some. And
so players are able to swap decks between now.
Oh my gosh, yeah! Like between now and then, things can happen. We can make a lot of things happen with it. Yeah. So we're not gonna stop these decks all day. What Azrael just did, I don't know if they'll swap the deck. How fast they want, that's impressive. But either way, really good stuff. Congratulations, Azrael. Congratulations to also VoD. Even though they had a very short game, they are still qualified for the championship. It means October 29th, 6 p.m. Central SA time. We will be having our championship. Top 8 players, 4 from these qualifiers that you just saw within the span of 12 hours, and classic, and some. So
yeah,
it's gonna be really fun. Ruben, do you have any final thoughts on what you just watched match-wise today?
I think we saw lots of very different decks, lots of very different game plans, a good variety of factions. Really, the Triple Overseers deck was kind of the boogeyman coming into the tournament, and definitely looked like people saw that and potentially prepared against it. And overall, great, really good play from all the players. We had a couple of bugs, but everyone was this is still
not many actually.
Not that many, honestly. We did a big stability bug fix patch yesterday. The game is still in not early access, but it's still in beta. I think it's the term. Check it out on Steam if you haven't already. It's free to play. Every card is available from the beginning, all 800 of them across our 8 different factions. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks everybody. If these events, let them Discord. Be sure to do that. Join them. Tell them that you love tournaments, and we'll try to keep. Till then, we will catch you October 29th, 6 p.m. Central USA time. First champion. Till then, safe, well, wonderful weekend.
Thanks, everyone.